All right, my friend. Schwab's portfolio analytics tool is just it's freaking awesome. I don't know why I love this stuff. I do. Look, I'm not even like a. I don't follow that my portfolio that much. I have a small account for Liam. He wanted to check his Nintendo stock, so I was looking at it, and it was up $6 on a $500 investment. So we'll take that. Actually has a good dividend too. But anyway, long story short, so I'm looking at Schwab. I said, man, this stuff is just fantastic. And I don't get paid anything. I have no relationship with Schwab other than that's where my account is. So I'm just going to show you the risk reward thing here, risk and return. I've never seen anything like this that you could do on your own. It's freaking awesome. So you can see my selected period goes back to 5/26 to June 2020 to June 25th, 2021, because that's when USAA sold our accounts to Schwab. So my portfolio at Schwab started 13 months ago. That's as far back as we can go. And we're going to go down here. We're going to see my combined portfolio. So my combined portfolio in terms of return is up here in the top. In terms of risk, is the risk is. All right. So my combined portfolio had a return of a 38% over the selected time period. My risk is 13.74. Risk is just a standard deviation, the volatility, if that makes sense. So if you take one standard deviation, roughly 2/3 of the time, my portfolio would have a volatility of 13.74 around this standard, my average rate of return. 1 year doesn't really mean anything, but just as an FYI, that's how it works. Now, when you're running a Monte Carlo, you're using 3 standard deviations, I would hope. 3 standard deviations is 3 times this risk amount. So for simplicity, if you have a 5% annual rate of return, all right, that's your average rate of return, 5%, and you have a 10% standard deviation, that would mean on the upside, you could get 10 times 3 plus 5, because 5 is your average annual rate of return, 5%. 10 is the standard deviation. You times 10 by 3, that's 30. So 99.8% of the time, your portfolio would give you no higher of a rate of return than 35%. On the other hand, 99.8% of the time, your portfolio will give you no lower a rate of return than 25%, because we have 10 as a standard deviation. We times that by 3, and we add it to the average rate of return on the up, and we subtract it on the down, if that makes sense. So in this case, if you had a 5 as the average rate of return and a 10% standard deviation, your portfolio would give you negative 25 on the negative, 99.8% of the time would give you no worse than that, and positive 35 on the upside, if that makes sense. So now here we got a 38% rate of return. It's an anomaly, but I do like the standard deviation of 13.74. So I know if I expect an average rate of return of, we'll just say 8%, I'm not going to be able to do this in my head. 13 times 2, I just got it, it's 26. It's 39 plus 8. So I would expect, if my expectations for rate of return were 8, and my standard deviation is 13, I just got to do it in my head, 13. I'd be 13 times 3 plus 8. That's 39 to be 47, right? Yeah, it'd be 47 on the up and 31 on the down. So in this case, given this risk right here, whatever my expected rate of return would be, in this case, I'm just saying 8, my negative would be negative 31, and my positive would be negative, what I say, 47. I hope that makes sense. So basically what that means is 99.8% of the time, given those metrics, I would expect a portfolio to give me no worse of a rate of return than negative 31% and no better than positive 47. Anyway, so check this out. So you can see here, I'm tracking pretty good. The most aggressive portfolio that Schwab has did a little bit better than mine, 42.15, with a little bit less of a standard deviation. I'm comfortable with my numbers without question. Moderately aggressive did a little bit less than mine with a little bit less of a risk. Here's a difference though. Risk of moderately aggressive to moderate went from 30. The risk went from the return of moderately aggressive to moderate over this last year went from 34 return to 24, and the risk went from 11 to basically 8.5. That's crazy. 3-month Treasury bill, the return was 9 basis points and a risk of 0 essentially. And you can see this is just, I love it, man. Now, what are they using for these numbers? So aggressive benchmark was 50% S&P 500, 25% the EFA, that's the Europe, Asia Far East, is that what I can't remember, but that's like the global markets ex-US. 20% small cap, 5% FTSE 3-month Treasury bill. So my portfolio was a little bit more aggressive than theirs because they have FTSEs. Actually, I have some cash. Either way, mine's pretty aggressive. And you go down to the difference between the moderately aggressive and moderate. That's a pretty significant drop off from a risk of 11.3 to 8.71. So moderate was 35% S&P, 35% bonds. They're 45% S&P. Yeah, I can't really figure that out. Yeah, but that's just, I love this, man. It's just, so if you're sitting there, let's just say you have a return that's weak and you have a high risk, something has gone wrong in your portfolio. Now the problem is, should you move it? Well, maybe not, because that might be that the next 3 years it outperforms relative to risk. That's always a drawback. But Schwab strikes again. Look, you can go back to inception 5, 3, 5, 10 years. For your standard deviation. And that's what you'd want to use to kind of get a guesstimate of what you think the future is going to be. The numbers I just ran for. Anyway, Schwab strikes again. I tell you, I love it. I've never seen anything like this from another firm. Again, I don't have that many firms. I mean, I had USA. I don't have Vanguard. I don't have Fidelity. But Schwab's just kicking butt, man. I love it. I love this stuff. Does Schwab have a checking account? Can you open a checking account at Schwab? USAA is giving me a hard time because I deposit my Amazon book transactions there. Like, we can't have a business account. So I'm like, man, maybe I got to open a checking account, but it doesn't look like Schwab does. Maybe I'll just go start using my checking account at Navy Federal. All right, we'll see you guys.